I'm Brian Freise alongside Laura Duncan, and you're listening to the Triggered and True podcast. This is a podcast that's all about you, discovering you, going back for you, being with you. You're more than the pain you've experienced, the behaviors you're expressing, and the thoughts that run through your head. Together, we will find your true self, which has always been with you. It's just been covered up. Tune in as we show you how to feel your pain, get comfort, and go play as you return to you. It's time to transform from triggered to true. Hello and welcome everyone to this episode of Triggered and True. We're having kind of a difficult start to today because Laura can't stop laughing at me.
I know. Hopefully it's not too triggering, but I am enjoying it.
No, it's not triggering. I'm just having a hard time getting my feet underneath me today.
Yeah.
But
which is okay.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
It only took us about 15 minutes of
here we are.
to get to the point where we are right now. So we're having fun, which is really good and really important. Because today we have a serious topic to talk about. Yeah. So it was good to have fun first because now we have to be serious.
Yes, now it's serious time.
So today we are talking about objections that people raise to Laura's process, the compassion that she created called the compassion method. And these objections kind of fall into a couple categories. So we're going to kind of split off one element that has a lot related to a lot of the people in Laura's sphere of influence come from a Christian background. So some of the objections are very much connected to people's faith, and it's particularly the Christian faith. So we're going to make that a second episode, and that'll be next month's episode. So for this episode, we're going to talk about some objections, or sometimes these aren't really even objections. They're just places where people struggle.
Yeah, exactly. Which can create an objection because we're struggling in it. Right.
Yep. So the first one I wanted to start off with is one that I battled, and we kind of put a survey out. So how we assemble some of these objections or struggle points is we put a survey out to Laura's the people that Laura trained to become consultants through the Compassion Method School, and got some really good feedback.
Because these people are actively practicing it. You know, there are consultants themselves, they're practicing it. So we thought it would be great to hear firsthand what some people have struggled with or had objections with.
Yep. They're in the field, they're in the trenches. So this first one is one I had as well as that some other people had. So I have written down that your emotions, a common objection to this process is that a belief that your emotions can't be trusted and that they should be suppressed or not listened to. And in Christian circles, sometimes they call that killing the flesh, but we'll talk about that next month. And we should rule over them. Whereas your process teaches us to kind of really listen to them, the opposite. So talk about that.
Yeah, I think, often it feels like if we feel our emotions, which a key thing with the compassion method is feel your pain, get comfort, go play, let go. And a big part of it is we have to feel that pain to the degree that we felt it in our early childhood development. And so, like you said, we are actually actively, I've spent a whole session often with people just feeling their emotions because for so long, starting in their childhood, there was an objection to them feeling emotions. So now this becomes our personal objection to feeling emotions because our mom and dad didn't allow us to feel when we were younger. They either got scared by our big emotions or they felt like it was wrong and it needed to, stop. And so they ended up not allowing us to feel to the extent that we needed to feel it to heal it. So now our emotions feel like they are out of control. People often say, don't let them drive, don't give them, attention. Don't they're going to lead you astray. They're going to take away from it. But the fact is, even in Christianity, Jesus felt emotions. We as humans were created to feel emotions. But unfortunately, we've decided, not God, we've decided that certain emotions are okay to feel and certain emotions are not okay to feel. So it's really, that objection stems from the shame that we are bad if we feel these emotions. So think about if your whole entire life you weren't allowed to feel emotions or there was consequences to it. Now we're saying it's okay to feel your emotions. So of course we're going to be like, oh no, this is dangerous. This is going to make us go off the deep end. This is going to cause us to make irrational decisions because emotions are bad. But imagine if you were raised in a home where emotions were actually accepted and encouraged and supported, and a mom or a dad or both was able to be with you in your emotions. We wouldn't feel the opposition and the objection to emotions. We would actually feel the benefit of it and the comfort that comes from it. It says, blessed are those that mourn, that feel their pain, for they will be comforted. It's so valuable to feel it, but if it wasn't okay for us to feel it, we're going to object to feeling it. Mostly because we don't know how to navigate it. We don't know how to feel it. We don't know how to land the plane. It feels like it's just taking off and we have no control over it. And we're not able to actually feel the emotions because it's going to take over.
And I would imagine a big part of that too was in early childhood development, probably most.
Most, yeah.
It brought disconnection.
Yes.
If you were in an emotional state, it brought disconnection from your caregivers.
Yes, exactly. And that is hell. That is the most devastating thing for our hearts, to feel that if I get angry, if I throw a fit, if I cry too loud or too long or too much, my mom or my dad is going to pull away from me, send me to my room, separate from me. So I do not want to feel those emotions, because then my friends are going to separate from me. My spouse is going to separate from me. Others are going to separate from me. So I'm going to control that, just feel safe. But emotions are actually very intelligent. We just don't know how to navigate them. So we think that they're just they're just chaotic feelings we're feeling and it's out of our control, which that would actually stem from a trigger. Triggers are out of control because they're coming from that child brain. But when our sophisticated adult brain feels emotions, we're able to feel them and accept them and process through them, even if they feel big at times, because we're not processing it through our triggered brain. We're processing it through our frontal lobe, our sophisticated adult brain.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've jotted down about this is that emotions are 100% reliable and accurate to tell us what our heart is feeling.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean what we're feeling is rational or logical, or that we should make decisions from that place.
Exactly. But we should listen to our emotions.
Yes.
So it's like we have our emotions in the trunk, we shut the trunk, we put our emotions in there. We're driving this car of life and we're not going to let those emotions bother us. I see it as, yes, we do want our sophisticated adult brain driving, but we want to have our child brain, our emotional brain in the passenger seat, helping us drive, navigating, supporting, showing us things that we couldn't see if we were just driving by ourselves and we put our emotions in the trunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the whole part of it that gets mixed up is we have not been taught how to listen to the signal, because it's our heart crying out for, we're hurting.
Yeah.
We have pain. It's just like you broke your leg hurts, your leg's telling you, hey, go to the doctor.
Hurting. We need help. Yeah. Exactly. It's the emotional side that's telling us just as much as our physical side. And to use the car analogy again, We have our dashboards all lit up with lights, and we're like, there are no lights, we'll just pretend they're not there. Have you ever gotten in the car with somebody and they just, for whatever reason, have all their lights on and you're just like, wow.
So how long's that light been blinking?
Exactly. Well, I don't know. I haven't exploded yet, but we have all these check engine lights that are trying to protect us. Exactly. It always starts. I keep driving, but these check engine lights, these brake lights, all the different things that are flashing on the dashboard of our life, we're not paying attention to because it scares us to look at them. But if we could look at the check engine light as an opportunity to take care of something that's not working correctly or not functioning correctly, it actually is a gift. But instead we look at it as a threat. So we ignore it and suppress it and pretend like it's not there until we are breaking down on the side of the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this leads us to another objection, which is very closely related. And that is that people are very scared to feel. Mm-hmm. In many cases, they feel that if they let themselves feel this, they'll get stuck there.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard people say, if I start crying, I feel like I'll never stop.
And that talking about it will just make it worse.
Exactly. And they're right to a certain degree. Initially, when we feel pain that's been suppressed for years, it's potentially going to hurt. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But until we feel it, we can't heal it. So indirectly, we are as stuck avoiding it as we are with the potential of feeling it. But the beauty is, once we feel it and get the comfort, we can let go. The check engine light can go off because it's been taken care of. But we don't know it. Our brain says danger, danger, danger. And that's why the practice of receiving compassion and comfort and nurture helps soften our hearts and gives us the experience that if we do cry, eventually we will feel comfort and we will let go. But if we've never had the experience of going through that process, our brain says it's a dead end. The compassion method gives the roadmap to not only feel the emotion, but to walk through the emotion. And really, that's the only way out of our internal emotions is through. Suppression will never work. Suppression will just create infection within us until we're forced to face what we're so scared of.
Yeah, that's one of the things I jotted down as I was going through this process. If we're fortunate, the circumstances of life will force us to deal with our pain.
I know.
Force us to deal with our emotions.
It really is. And even though we look at it as like, oh no, this is a horrible thing happening to me because I'm feeling all the emotions that I thought I was doing so well hiding. Now it's all out. But better out than in, even if it's uncomfortable. That's the beauty of learning this process because there is a way. It's not just, some people think it's just like chaotic. You're just going to feel all your emotions and then you're just going to, that's the end of it. But the compassion method helps you feel them, to walk through them, to reconnect with who you are and reconnect with comfort.
Yeah, and the feeling and comforting is such a foreign language to people. That's why it's like, it seems so intimidating. It's like,
yep,
I don't know French. You're going to tell me,
exactly.
French,
Yep. And we have all of our history, our historical evidence that whenever I did feel, someone shut me down, someone disconnected, someone told me it wasn't okay. So we reinforced the story and we use these taglines, of like, don't let your emotions, control you. Don't let your emotions take over. And everyone like smiles and nods and say, yeah, we're not going to do that. But
yeah, because we're all scared to death.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The person encouraging you is as scared as you, and also as uncomfortable
we're all just
as you
scared of our own
it.
shadow here.
Yep, exactly.
So the next one that came up from a gentleman that does a lot of one-on-one learn your process, does a lot of one-on-ones, is that so many people, he said, say it's not about the past. They want to talk about like a current trigger maybe somebody that currently wronged them or their current situation. Like, no, this has nothing to do with my past. This has everything to do with right now.
Yeah, that's very common. We think it's just a matter of getting over it. But again, like I said, you have to go through it, and going through it means you have to feel it. And if you go back to neuroscience, not my science, neuroscience says that when you have felt that pain, you have to be able to feel the comfort that goes with it. And what happens is that pain is your coding that's determining how you're going to feel the rest of your life. So when we say, oh, it doesn't matter, it was in the past, it was in my childhood, you just have to move on, accept it, you can't change it, you just have to get over it. We're actually working against neuroscience that says when we were little, that is how we're going to determine how we're going to process pain. And nobody realizes that. So they're just trying to be big adults with our sophisticated brain, just ignoring it. But the problem is, whenever we get triggered, we're back to being little again. So if we don't take care of where the system broke down in the first place, which is in childhood, we're not going to be able to make those changes as adults.
Yeah, and I think the challenge for your consultants always is, as they're meeting with people one-on-one, is to not be disrespectful or minimize, because what they're going through is real.
Yeah.
Very real. It's as real as it feels.
Yes.
You've taught me that.
It's as real as it feels. Exactly.
Yeah. It's painful. It's traumatic, but it's being made so much more painful and traumatic because of this train wreck that happened way back. And that's become our lens, and that's become our perspective. And you can try to mind over matter it, but you can't change it until you recode it. Your brain will keep sending you the signal over and over again until we actually take care of it. And just focusing on the current thing is just going to send you in an endless loop.
The current thing is just most often avoiding those emotions we just talked about. We think it's the current thing. We think it's what happened today. Sometimes I'll ask people, how old do you feel? And someone will be like, I feel 38 years old. And I was like, okay. And then we'll talk through what they're feeling. And then they'll recognize that their feelings are not proportioned to what's happening. And so they're recognizing, oh, yeah. And especially sometimes I'll even like say, for example, if it's like a wife and she's struggling with her husband, but her husband's like, this isn't a big deal to me. And then the wife's like, this is a really big deal. And we recognize, oh, even in our present circumstances, our filter and interpretation is coming from our personal history, not from the present moment.
Well, and I think closely related to that was another one that was brought up, is that focusing on yourself is letting the villains off the hook.
Yeah.
So they still have villains in this example.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And that what you were describing before too, or what we were talking about, just focusing on the present day trigger, whatever the issue is, that has you stuck very much in blame.
Yes, exactly.
And that blame is blocking your healing.
It is, because it's keeping us from feeling. If I can blame you and not recognize how it makes me feel and how it's affecting me, then I don't have to face those emotions. I get the relief of it's your problem, not mine, so I don't have to feel.
Yeah. Boy, what a nauseating cycle.
I know, it really is. And that's the thing. One of the things sometimes when someone's very insistent, like it's not about the past, it's about today. One of the things that I'll do sometimes is just kind of help talk through it a little bit, to help them see how often has this circumstance come up throughout your life? They're like, pretty often. How many jobs have you experienced this same thing? All my jobs. How many people have you felt this with? Most people. So like you just said, a nauseating cycle, it's a cycle. So sometimes it's helpful to recognize if this was just today, it wouldn't have been repeating itself throughout your whole entire life. This had to start somewhere for you to continue to cycle through the same thing over and over again. So it really can't just be about what's present day, because you'll see a thread, a theme throughout your whole entire life, all the way back to 0 to 12 years old. So sometimes it's helpful to do like a reverse linear to get to the child self, because we'll say, nope, it's just now. And then I'll be like, what about 5 years ago? What about 10 years ago? What about 20 years ago? What about 25 years ago? And we're in childhood now, where it first begun.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a sneaky way for you to get that in there.
Yeah, it kind of is, but you got to work with it, because that avoidance of pain is so strong, which I understand, that we'd rather prove our case about how it's not about childhood.
I used the wrong word. It's not sneaky. It is you meeting them where they're at, taking them by the hand, and we're like, we're going to walk through this one step at a time, because going right back to childhood is not where you want to go.
Nope, we can't jump from here to there.
Yeah, we're going to go on.
So it's like more like, let's walk through this together, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, this isn't the first time.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, it's so much easier to blame, though.
It's so much easier. I always tell people it's so nice to blame, that I don't have to deal with anything with myself, and I can just make it all about whatever the circumstances.
Right. But then they're blaming themselves.
But then it's also powerless, because if it's all about the circumstance and all about the other person, then I am a victim to it. I'm subject to it, because I won't take care of myself. My circumstance and that person has more power, or I feel like that person has more power than me. Mm-hmm. But if it's really about me, I have all the power to take care of me. Yeah. So at first it's annoying, because we just like to get rid of it, displace it. But once we actually, but then that keeps leaving us. Every time you blame, you still stay stuck in the same thing, because you never took care of it. So after we jump the hurdle of the discomfort of feeling our pain, now we feel powerful. Because if I feel my pain, my circumstances, other people can't impact me the same way.
Right. I know when you say there's no victims and no villains, that can sound so harsh.
Yeah.
But I always frame it with people. I'm like, okay, we're not saying you cannot be victimized.
No.
You absolutely.
People
are victimized all the time.
That do hurt you, and that you would be a victim to that behavior. But who you are
your identity
is never a victim if you're connected to yourself when that behavior is happening.
Yeah. Very, very important distinction.
That actually leads me. Can I chime in, or can I start an objection that I just remembered? Would that be okay?
There you go. Yeah.
Here we go. This is off the script, guys. No, just joking. Not that we really even have a script, but one thing that just connected to, because you just said, doesn't mean that people don't do things to us that hurt us. Doesn't mean that we don't become a victim to someone's behavior. And that leads me to one of the common quotes that I use is, what you do matters, but you matter more. And one of the objections that I've heard is that because we're emphasizing that you matter more than what you do, that what you do doesn't matter. That's what people feel. They're like, well, so then I just need to be like a doormat. Like I just have to be okay within myself, and they can physically, mentally, emotionally hurt me, and I just have to be okay within myself. And that's where I emphasize that what we do or what another person does to us matters. It's important. It hurts us. It affects us. It impacts us. No matter how okay we are within ourselves, it still affects us. But the difference, I would say, is that when we are okay within ourselves and someone does something wrong to us or hurtful towards us, it doesn't get inside. It still hurts, but it doesn't become my identity. It doesn't become, this is happening to me. I am hurt by it, but I'm also okay even in that behavior. So one of the objections is that what we do or what others do doesn't matter. Even though I'm using the quote, what we do does matter, people are like, but
all they hear is that last part.
Exactly. So they're like, so it's okay that they do that? And I'm like, nope, it's not okay that they do hurtful, wrong things to you. But how you interpret it, how you receive it, how you perceive it is going to impact you differently if you're full versus if you're empty. Having that same behavior will look different. So we're learning how to be okay within ourselves, even though that behavior is 100% not okay. And that doesn't mean you don't say something about it, but you say something about it from your true self, not from your triggered self. Or at least that's the goal.
Well, and I think sometimes when people first hear it, it feels disempowering.
Yes.
But it's the exact opposite of that.
Yes.
If you can really grasp what Laura just shared, this is the most empowering thing that ever. Like
exactly.
You don't have to worry about the world around you, and because you can't control how people treat you or how they act.
People
or
are going to hurt us. Like it's inevitable. Yeah. Intentionally or unintentionally, we will be
people
hurt.
Are difficult, man. Let's talk about it. I mean, let's blame some people, man. Let's go through the list. Think of all these difficult people.
Exactly.
A lot of times it's the one looking at me right now in the reflection in the mirror, but
Yep. That's usually our biggest critic and our hardest person to please and impress.
Yeah. Yeah. People can be difficult. So along the lines of blaming, kind of a very similar-ish objection is when people go back to their child self, there's reluctance because they don't want to blame their parents. They feel like identifying the gifts or the things they didn't get is blaming their parents. But if they can really grasp there's no victims and no villains, we're not making villains of your parents. We're just like doing an inventory.
Exactly. And when people can look at it more objectively, because the end result, which is one of my favorite things about the compassion method, there's so many healing modalities that end up encouraging, because they say like parents are toxic. You have to get rid of them. Their behavior is wrong. It's ultimately saying, they may matter to you, but what they're doing matters more. So we need to get rid of them. And one of the beautiful things about acknowledging without blame, but acknowledging what your parents were able to give to you and were not able to give to you, actually empowers you to love your parents more. I love that byproduct. We don't have to get rid of anyone when we're okay. We may have a preference of how much time we want to spend with someone. We may have a preference of how we want to have a relationship with someone. But you never have to get rid of anyone in your life when you're okay within yourself. So that initial acknowledgement of what you'd got or what you didn't have is the gateway to actually being able to have a stronger love for your parents. Because if I have lack and I'm protecting my parents by not acknowledging that lack, I am going to trigger. Because remember, the two reasons we trigger is unmet need and pain. So I can be like, I don't want to acknowledge what my parents do because that will be villainizing my parents and blaming them. So we're not going to look at that. But guess what? Your trigger will find you and you'll end up reacting to your parents from that lack and potentially hurting yourself or hurting them more than acknowledging what you experienced.
Or hurting them or just hurting somebody else.
Exactly.
You may not ever lash out on them, but you're going to lash out on your own kids.
Yes, that's so true. Even if we protect by not lashing out at them, it's going to come out in some way. So in the end, you're actually hurting yourself and potentially your parents or others more by not acknowledging what you didn't have. But you see how, like, when we acknowledge what we didn't have, it's not blaming our parents. It's just saying they didn't give it to me. But it doesn't have to be that they're bad because they didn't give it. They just didn't know how to give it to me.
They didn't have it to give.
They didn't have it to give. And if you don't have it to give, you're not going to be able to. Even if you want to, you're not going to be able to.
I like how you talk about this when you do the inventory. You're like, did they teach me Spanish or not?
Yes, exactly. I try to remove the emotional side of it and just say matter of fact. And you wouldn't go to your parents, how dare you? I can't believe you didn't teach me Spanish. It's just a fact. They did or they didn't. And that makes it take away some of the emotional charge that's with it.
Yeah.
I've also used the example like inventory. If we fake our inventory, so for example, I was in a coffee shop and I was taking inventory of my coffee.
Come eventually.
Yeah. And then, exactly. And then I just said I had coffee, but I didn't have coffee. that's going to come and affect me later on. That's kind of what we're doing. We're taking an inventory, pretending like we got things, but at the end of the day, we don't have them on our shelf. And if we don't have them, we're not going to be able to give that to others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, another big one that was identified, and I know you've mentioned this in your own practice. There's a lot of people that are looking for something that's more along the lines of talk therapy.
Yeah. Which has its benefits for sure. It's just the compassion method is not that.
Yeah, you're not talk therapy. So let's talk about what talk therapy is as you would define it, and then what compassion method is and how it differs.
So I think talk therapy is helping because it helps us feel heard. It gives us a place to be able to process. But just like whatever's going on right now, present day, isn't what it's really about. If we only do talk therapy and we never get to the roots, which would be our early childhood development, we're going to continue to talk and talk and talk and talk. And at the end of the day, we don't actually feel heard.
It's just another way to avoid.
Exactly. You get that relief, almost like a drug or something. You go, you talk, you're like, whew, I feel better. But then 2 days later, you're in a situation, everything you talked about comes all right back up again. It never went away. We just talked about it. So there are benefits of talking about it, but eventually you're going to have to do something about it. You can't just talk about it. And that's the difference. One of the main things, just even in our class last week, we were talking about struggles that students are having as they're learning how to become consultants. And that was one of the number one things. They're like, I don't know how to interrupt because they just want to talk the whole entire session. I don't know how to help redirect to what's really going on. How is that impacting you? Back to early childhood development. So we were talking about the nuances of recognizing that a lot of times when people are talking, it's similar to what we talked about in the beginning of this episode. It's an avoidance of pain. I'd rather talk about the pain than actually feel the pain and get comfort.
So how did you teach them to interrupt?
Yeah. So what I would do is gently, because we don't even know we're doing it. If I've been doing talk therapy my whole life, that's all I know. So it's not necessarily like, don't talk, because that's not going to work. And we want to hear people to a certain degree, but we also want to help redirect from whatever's going on present day to what's going on, what's actually going on from our past. And so one of the things is talking about the neuroscience. That's really helpful for people to understand. I have my students have an opening statement where they're able to distinguish the difference of talk therapy versus the compassion method consulting, of being able to tell people ahead of time, this is what we're doing. So they have a good idea with it, because a lot of people don't know. They're doing the best they can because this is their experience. So being able to educate and then being able to help redirect by using emotions versus just what people are talking about. So we're helping them get out of their logic and helping them connect to their emotions.
Well, and you're teaching a process.
Yeah.
And you want people to, as quickly as possible, get to the point where they don't need to talk to you.
Exactly.
That they can take care of themselves.
Yes, but that's definitely an objection often, because people are like, but I want to talk. But the thing about it is we could talk and talk and talk, or we can give you the gift of being heard, and you don't need to talk as much as you thought you needed to talk.
Or help you find the gift of being heard.
Yes, to help find your gift
hunt.
giver, to be able to find where you didn't receive it, help you receive it. Because most people are wanting to talk so much, whether it's in a therapy or just in life in general, because they're wanting to be heard. And so we're constantly doing that. And even if the person listens with attentive eyes and, his body language says, I'm listening, it's never going to be enough. That's why often people think talk therapy doesn't work, because they're just talking and talking. They're never getting to what's really going on, what's really bothering them, what's really hurting.
Well, they might feel it works at first because you get the release.
Initially it does feel good. And there's benefit to it. So I'm not like disregarding the benefit, But it's important to recognize that it can't just be talking about it. It has to actually get to a place where we're applying it by feeling it and getting comfort and going to play.
And from all your years of experience, like how long this process takes, I think you've said before, if I remember right, like 6 sessions is kind of your, like you feel like,
I mean, it varies with different people, so I don't have a set number, sure. But most people
you haven't ran the analytics, Laura, to see like,
exactly. I really see that.
Probabilistically, this is going to take you 6.3 sessions to achieve mastery of the compassion method process.
But whatever that number is, it's going to be a lot less than what typical therapies or counseling is going to do, because we're actually learning how to walk through it. So it's not just talking about it till you feel better. It's actually teaching and equipping you to be able to walk through it yourself, which I love so much because I can only be with people for so much time. 1 hour once a week or 1 hour every 2 weeks, that's not very much time. And if that is the only way that they feel helped, that's a lot of hours that they're not feeling helped. And so my goal is that anytime, any moment, a person will be equipped to walk through pain on their own, which is amazing. It takes help at first because we haven't been taught, just like learning Spanish. We need help at first, but eventually we'll speak it ourselves. We will do it ourselves. And that's the goal.
Well, I can definitely give a testimony to that because you empowered me.
Yeah.
100%. Like, definitely at first, I felt like I needed you.
Yeah,
more,
of course. It's foreign. Yeah.
But man, if there would have been a podcast out there I could have listened to.
Actually, it's true.
You were a guest on one podcast that I listened to like a lot. And I remember before we got ours going, I gave that podcast to one other person and the guy told me he listened to it like a dozen times. That one podcast,
I know it is so helpful to have this podcast to be able to walk through. And the more you apply it for yourself, I want people to listen, which is great, and to understand what we're saying. But also I hope that as you've gone through these different episodes that you're able to start recognizing I can do this for myself.
Right. And that we're not just talk therapy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And, reach out to me, we have other consultants, reach out to actually have the time to apply everything you've been learning, because that is what is as important as learning about the compassion method.
But I do remember at different points as I was learning the process of being like, oh, I really need to talk to Laura about this. But I'm like, my session with her isn't for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna just randomly email her and try to do that. And I was like, because I knew that like you're not the crisis counselor. Like that is not what you're doing. It's like you teach us to be our own crisis counselors.
Yeah.
And that was the empowering part where I was like, I just be like, I don't need her right now. I can do this.
Yes,
I can walk
exactly.
through this process, and it was so empowering.
Mm-hmm. And I love that because you're almost setting people up to have more pain when you only get to talk to them once a week or every 2 weeks, and you stir everything up.
Yeah.
Exactly. You stir it all up and you're like, okay, bye. See you in 2 weeks. I feel actually so much compassion for people in those situations. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really difficult. Sometimes that still happens because as we're learning,
especially
we don't
at the
know.
Beginning.
Yeah, the beginning, because we get a lot that comes up and we're still learning. So it can feel a little uncomfortable in the beginning. But after a short amount of time, we start to recognize, no, I can do this for myself. And that's what the homework, I always give homework to clients because I'm teaching them how to practice doing it for themselves. And then when I re-meet with people, we'll go over the homework and we'll go over what's working, what's not working, fine tune it, send them back out for a couple of weeks to practice it until they can ride the bike on their own for life.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely, I'm sure you meet with some people that aren't ready to go do that. They're not ready to do the work.
And that's why, exactly. That's why I say it's
not loud enough yet.
Yeah, exactly. And so sometimes people will go and come back, but they're always creating an opportunity through this podcast, through the content we share, of you being able to, when you're ready, to come back to feel, come back to learn how to get comfort and get your needs met. And it's okay if it takes time. There's times when I didn't want to do it either. There's times when I bumped up against my pain and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I remember specifically thinking, I can't believe I make people do this. Because, not that I'm making them do it, but I remember thinking like, this is terrible. I don't want to do this. I can't believe I make other people do this, because it is so uncomfortable. It is
do your
normal.
own homework and you're like, this homework sucks.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I can't believe this is terrible, until I finally got it for myself personally. And then I could see it even more differently than even seeing another person get it. And it's so valuable, but resistance is going to happen. I like to use the example of when you go to the gym, resistance happens. You can't breathe. You're sore. You can't lift very much. You can't do very much in the beginning. And most people want to give up because it hurts and it's uncomfortable. But what happens when we push through it? What happens when we say, no, I'm going to keep going even though this hurts and even though this is uncomfortable? We have endurance. We get strong. That tension that we feel with our bodies creates strength. The tension you feel emotionally that says, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to give up. When we push through that, we're able to actually get strong emotionally. You're learning a new language. It hurts the brain. It's hard. But we have to push through it in order to be able to actually get what we need.
I was talking to someone this week they were talking about how exhausted they were feeling emotionally. And I remembered back to what was actually the most exhausting was trying not to feel.
Yes, it's way more exhausting than we realize. It takes a lot of...
When you finally just let yourself feel,
yep,
it was like,
relief.
Even though it hurt, it was like relief. It's like, I can quit fighting this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's okay to be scared. And it's okay that it's uncomfortable, but keep pushing through it. If you've stopped listening to the podcast because you're like, I just don't know how to do it, go back and listen to some of the first ones. Go back and remember this. Even if you hit some, times where you're like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Come back to it. Your heart still wants it. Your heart still needs it. And just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's not for you.
Yeah, no, those are really good. That was really good clarification. The difference between talk therapy, which has its place, versus what you're endeavoring to do with the compassion method. Which
knowing the difference. They both have benefit, but it's knowing the difference.
Yep. Excellent. Well, thank you, Laura. This was all incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
And next month, we'll tie into the questions and some of the objections around people's faith, particularly the Christian faith. But what would you like to leave from just the things that we've talked about today? What would you like to leave as a parting message to our listeners?
That's funny because I was just actually thinking about something. Sometimes I don't have anything to say, but I do today. Don't let your objections keep you from being with yourself in your pain, learning and understanding what you need. Learning and understanding how to get what you need. There may be parts of the compassion method that you're like, I don't know about that part. But take the rest of it, every part that you can take, and make sure that you're still taking care of yourself and still connecting to yourself, even if a part of it's hard. It makes me sad sometimes when there'll be an objection that people go, I'm just going to stop. And even if it's a different modality, even if you end up doing a different type of healing process, don't give up on taking care of yourself and walking through the process to heal just because you have an objection with the compassion method or even objections in other ways. Keep taking care of yourself regardless.
And go back to what you said at the very first. Don't let your objections stop you from being with yourself.
Yes, because often, because this is at the core of this, it's about coming home. And that's what makes you so happy. Pain is just the doorway we walk through to come home to ourselves. But sometimes when we have those objections, we stop before we walk through it to come back to ourselves. Don't let that objection be a wall or something that keeps you from being able to say, I'm going to be with you. Even if this part of this process is hard for me, I'm going to be with you in whatever ways that I can be with you in this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great point you bring. This isn't the only way to learn how to
There's
be
other
with yourself.
healing processes.
Right.
If this doesn't
Yeah.
fit for you, that's okay. But make sure whatever you decide to do, it's taking care of your child self. It's helping you bring the things that you didn't receive to your heart, getting your needs met, learning how to feel, learning how to get comfort so that you can heal from the roots to present day.
Laura, I know that I speak on behalf of lots of people, thousands of people that have been, and I'm sure you have no idea how many people you've met with between one-on-one but it's thousands. I speak on behalf of many, many people when I say thank you for teaching me how to empower myself in this
You
process.
are so welcome. And everyone listening, I am so happy that I've been able to discover this process to share with you. And I'll keep sharing because I keep wanting, and I know there's so many people that still need to hear. So if you're listening or you have been listening, share this with friends, share this with family members. It's not about us. It's about other people that haven't been able to have a chance to learn about this, being exposed to it. So share.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Laura. And thank you, listeners, for taking the time to be with us for this episode. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye, everyone.